Hello and welcome to another episode on the White Dog Garage YouTube channel. My name is Bob. In this episode I'm going to be showing you how I am building a cradle that will sit on my trolley jack to be used to remove a gearbox. Very shortly I have to do a clutch replacement on one of our vehicles. To do this, I need to be able to move the gearbox back, and to do that, the best way to do it is with a transmission jack. I don't have a purpose-built transmission jack, so what I'm doing is building a cradle that will hold the gearbox, and this cradle will sit on one of my trolley jacks and allowing me to pull the gearbox back and then get on to the job of replacing the clutch assembly. This is the trolley jack that will be used for the build. The cradle will sit on here. There's a pin, we'll have a pin that goes down into this recess here. I started the job by cutting out the pieces of steel that I needed to make the cradle frame. I cut two lengths of 50 by 50 by 6mm mild steel angle, which will form the outside of the transmission cradle. Then I cut a length of 65 by 35 by 3mm rectangular hollow section, which will become the central backbone of the cradle. Finally, I cut two lengths of 25 by 25 by 6mm mild steel angle, which will form the ends of the cradle structure. The overall length of the cradle was to be 300mm with a width of 210mm, and with the box section sitting centrally between the two end pieces where it will provide the primary support for the gearbox. I first made the outer cradle by joining the angle pieces at right angles to form a rectangle. I wanted the top of the box section to sit on the same plane as the surface of the angle pieces in the outer frame. I did this by inverting the frame and using two pieces of 50 by 50mm square hollow section as packers to form the surface of the plane. I then placed the box section face down on these packers and in the centre of the cradle frame. After that, I tacked, then welded that box section in place. Note that having tacked one end, I had some distortion to deal with and ended up using a clamp to pull the box section back into alignment. Once I had it all tacked together, I then fully welded the frame. Off camera, I had also cut up some chain links to make tie-down loops, which I then welded to the outside of the cradle. These 4 loops will be used to chain down the gearbox during removal. I then moved on to machining the pin that will attach the cradle to the trolley jack. I first faced one end of the piece of round stock. Then centre drilled it to fit the end of a live centre. Repositioning between the chunk and the live centre, I machined the pin down to a diameter of 30mm. This diameter produces a sliding fit in the head of the trolley jack. Then I used the bandsaw to cut the pin off the end of the piece of stock. Using the bandsaw is quicker than parting off on the lathe at this diameter. With the pin cut off, I returned it to the lathe and faced the cut end. Having made the pin, I moved on to drilling a hole in the centre of the frame to accept it. I worked my way up through a series of successively larger drills to the biggest one that I had, which is 1 inch or 25.6mm in diameter. The bottom hole of the cradle, which for the drilling process was on the top, was then taken out to a diameter of 30mm using a boring head. The top hole was left at the 25.6mm or 1 inch. The pin will sit under this hole to be welded, and thus the bulk of the weld will be below the level of the cradle bottom. Then I welded the pin to the cradle. I placed tacks at 120-degree intervals around the pin circumference and adjusted it to be square with the base using a copper hammer. The copper hammer won't dent the steel. Then I turned it over and welded the top. Before completely welding out the lower section. The cradle won't be fixed to the jack, the weight of the gearbox keeps it in place, but the pin has to be big and strong enough and steady enough to withstand the sideways forces associated with the removal and installation of the gearbox. The cradle fitted the trolley jack perfectly, and with a coat of paint it was off to do the job it was made for. Well, I hope you found that video interesting, and if you did, I welcome a thumbs up, and of course share it widely, share it with your friends, share it with people who aren't your friends. If you like the sort of stuff that I do and you haven't already subscribed to the channel, well, think about subscribing. It's easy, just hit the subscribe bar down below. While you're there, don't forget to ding the bell so that you get a notification from YouTube the next time a video is loaded on the White Dog Garage YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to talk to you again on the next video.